Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. And today, I think we're going to have a very interesting topic since we have a very perfect guest here. You can see we have people who speak Chinese, people who speak Filipino, Spanish, and the Koreans, and the Japanese maybe. So, what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the code switching. So this is something like maybe bilingualism and the trilingualism everyday experience, but maybe somehow you didn't realizing it. So I would just say, what's the code switching is? So in a simple terms, it's just a juggling act with one or two, maybe even more languages or dialects. Um, Sometimes you don't know why you just can change it to another languages. And I think everybody here have the same experience, right? So I would just use my personal experience as mine. So I would just use this. I would just say a sentence like,嗯，今天我们要做的任务，我觉得非常困难。今回はプロジェクトは、本当に難しいです。でも、todavía no tengo planes para cómo hacerlo. And I think I need some help from my friends. So, okay, so in this sentence, I just code switch it between Chinese and to Japanese and to Spanish and to English. So this is how the code switching functions. So in a more series, if we're talking about series, for decades, this is kind of something that is being debated for a long time because decades kind of like languages mixing was fairly seen as a linguistic deficit because somebody argues that it is not a real bilingual. This is something chaotic. However, linguistic Carl Myers Scotten provided the crucial counter evidence. Here suggests like code switches is deliberate. It is something strategic choice, a negotiation of the social roles and relationships. It follows some certain step with logic and so far, from being a mistake, it is a highly skilled in linguistic strategies. Our brain sometimes is just being efficient thoughts, right? So, but that leaves us a very big questions. So, why do we do it? It is just a mental shortcut, or there a deeper social, physiological behind linguistic and jogging act? So to unpack why, I'm handing the microphone over to social our guest Hannah Cooking number two, and she's going to say how we do it and what are the methods that we use for code switching. All right.
Okay, thank you, Fan. So, that question is the one that used to keep me up at night as a kid. For me, it's never been a dance between two or three languages, but a kind of triangular negotiation. My parents are Korean. I was born and raised speaking Spanish, and now I'm doing my degree in English. So my brain's default setting sometimes feels like a three-way split screen. So growing up, the switches weren't just between home and the outside world. They happened within our home. Dinner table conversations were this incredible tapestry. My mom would start a story in Korean about her day, hit a wall trying to explain the Spanish bureaucracy to my dad, and pivot to Spanish for that specific term, and then I just jump in with an English term English word I learned online that just captured the feeling better. So, and for so long, I internalized this idea that it was kind of a linguistic chaos, that I wasn't fully Korean or fully Spanish or fully precise in my English. But studying this and living it showed me the truth. It's the opposite of chaos. It's deeply, profoundly intentional architecture, yes. And the why is all about building bridges between the different rooms of your identity. The evolution in thinking here has been everything for someone like me. We moved from seeing it as a deficit assigned to one rooted in one culture to understanding it as a high level social linguistic skill. It's not that I can't stick to one language, it's that a single language often can't hold my whole thought. So each one carries a different emotional weight or different story. That's the social and personal heart of it. We code switch to firstly build identity bridges. It's how I make my Korean self understand my Spanish life and explain my academic English world to both. It's my tool for integration, not just with others, but within myself, and also claim precise meaning. So the Spanish word, for example, sobremesa, that lingering chat after a meal carries a whole culture. Sometimes let's hang out after dinner. It's in English, just doesn't cut it. You switch to hold on to that specific meaning. Um, and thirdly, navigate the onset with my parents switching into Spanish for a serious topic and sometimes soften it, creating a little psychological distance. Using Korean for an apology carries a depth of humility that feels different. So the why is about identity construction in real time. For a multicultural person, every conversation is an act of weaving. It's not a lack of a true self, it's the active and skilled creation of a multifaceted self. We went from thinking of it as a linguistic turbulence to understanding it as expert level world building. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, so that's a perfect example about explaining why and how we do it in the code switch. So now I'm going to ask Hannah Palmer to share your thoughts about how our brain managed to the code switching.
Okay, so after learning what code switching is and why bilinguals do it, we will take a look at how the brain manages it. So, the mental lexicon, which is the internal word storage, is not structured like a dictionary, like the physical ones we use every day. And the reading that we have been doing throughout the course showed this with the Splundle example in reading one, because after reading the word, we know almost instantly that it does not exist, it's not a real word, and that is because the lexicon works like a network and not a list, and it is fast, automatic, and built on connections. For bilinguals like us, that network includes both languages, and both languages stay active all the time. Although you're only speaking one, the other is still quietly activated in the background. Now, let us move on to the speech production, in which the brain plants ideas, retrieves words, builds grammar, and speaks all in real time. This is why we hesitate more in complex explanations as the planning load increases. And code switching happens inside that same fast moving system as well. So, how does it stay so smooth? This is when cognitive control takes place. For instance, when you're trying to concentrate on something and block the noise around you, the brain does exactly the same. It highlights the language you want to use and softens the other one, so the switch feels effortless. Although it's not completely turned off, but has been lowered enough to stay coherent. Therefore, errors in this case are rare, as code switching is not messy or chaotic. It actually shows how efficient and flexible the bilingual brain really is. And as a bilingual person, I would also like to share my own experience while dealing with bilingualism and code switching. I tend to confuse words sometimes when I translate idioms or expressions because I translate them directly or word by word. For instance, in English, it would be turn on the lights, but in the Philippines, some people would say open the lights because that is how we usually say it in Filipino. And to sum up my part, code switching works because the brain keeps both languages active, plans speech rapidly, and uses strong control systems in order to guide the switch exactly at the right moment.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Hannah Palma, and thank you for explaining very brilliant way. Okay. So Yokai, can you tell us what's the current understanding on this code switching topic?
Okay, so many people mistakenly believe code switching indicates a lack of proficiency in either language or confusion, but we'll dispel that misconception with some evidence from our field. In the first perusal reading, introducing psycholinguistics, speakers usually try to produce utterances that are appropriate in both content and structure, which are produced in real time, often without rehearsal. The best way to evaluate the capacity of human brain between two linguistic systems is code switching and not its failure. On top of that, considerable more planning is also required for spontaneous speech rather than reading aloud because we must decide the content as well as its presentation. The presence of two active grammatical systems would double the planning load. Therefore, the observable behavior of code switching is fluid ease, even though the cognitive machinery behind it is operating at an extremely complex level. Lastly, this network is rich with connections in both languages for bilinguals, as demonstrated by the two-stage model of word retrieval, which first accesses the abstract concept and then its sound. Here are our main conclusions about code switching. 1. It isn't a weakness but rather the illustration of mastery in two language systems. 2. It is similar to active-passive sentences, and it is a useful tool to communicate. 3. It is automated by the human brain, which has the capacity to adapt different language systems, not to mention bilinguals where it becomes more natural. This gathers the understanding of next time when you hear someone doing code switching, don't assume confusion, but this is just the presence of extraordinary linguistic capability of human brain and the mastery of it.
All right.
That would be
Thank you,
all.
Yokai, and that's a very good wrap up for this today's topic conclusion. And I think after that you have this big understanding about code switches. So to end this, okay, thank you everybody, and thank you everybody for joining today's podcast, and bye bye.